welcome to Sparking Conversations, episode 1. I am your host, Mark, also known as Sparky, and I'm here with my longtime friend, co-host, and new crypto mentor, Jim. How are you, Jim?
I'm good. Thanks
So
for
we're
having
here-
me, buddy.
Well, thanks for the invite to do this. This was originally your idea. We were talking back and forth about Bitcoin and cryptocurrency in general, and what I realized was you know quite a bit about this, and I always had questions, and so I asked you questions throughout the week. So opening up to other people to basically get to know what's going on with cryptocurrency. What's your history with Bitcoin? Because everybody's hearing about Bitcoin right now.
Right.
How did you hear about Bitcoin?
I heard about it years ago and never really, probably, I don't know, 2011, 12, somewhere around there. And kind of got to researching about it and was like trying to wrap my head around how does it work, how does it value or anything like that. And kind of, life gets in the way and kind of lost touch with it. Then there was a stretch towards fall of 2017. You were tweeting about it.
Well,
And the price was going up and up and up and up, and you were tweeting it's at 7,000, it's at 8,000, it's at 9,000. So I got to pay attention to this stuff. This is what the hell's going on. So I kind of fell down the Bitcoin rabbit hole, as they say, and I haven't turned back since. Been dollar cost average, and ever since, kind of owe that to you a little bit,
For me, I was listening to a podcast. I was working nights at the time, and I kept hearing, Bitcoin is at 2,000, and I was like, what is that? And then I heard Bitcoin's at 3,000. And that was like the following week. And then I was like, Bitcoin's at 4,000. So I came home and I talked to my wife and I was like, we need to figure out what this is and what's happening. And when I started looking into it, it made sense to me because I had always been on, I like hard assets. I like gold, I like silver, I like land, I like things that I can actually possess, So that's when I started, being present on social media and being like, does anybody else know about this thing? So with that, can you give a brief explanation on what Bitcoin is? Like, we know it's internet money. How does it work?
Right. Well, I've been thinking about that too, because now, like you said, everybody's coming out because everybody recognizes it and everybody wants it because it's expensive now. You know what I mean? You've been pounding the table about it for years and nobody pays attention. And I'm trying to think of because like the average person, somebody's mom or whatever, they what is it? How does is it valuable or anything? And I've done a ton of research and looking at which could, cryptocurrency kind of led me down to like what is money to begin with, and that led me down another one, which led me to, what the Federal Reserve is and what, all that nasty stuff. And there's some good books I can recommend. I get plugged into audiobooks and just tried to educate myself on what money is. I think it's important that people recognize what money is before they can even really wrap their head around Bitcoin or why it has any value at all. It's just fake internet money that the kids are all crazy about. So like you ask people like, what's the difference between money and currency, and people couldn't even tell you that. The money you did to buy goods and services, and
Spend it.
right, and there's not much more thought that goes into it. Why it is or what the qualities of money have and stuff like that. But there's a huge difference between money and currency. You know what I mean? We used to have money and it kind of slipped into currency and people couldn't even tell you the difference of the two. And most people still think like, well, money, gold and stuff like, you know, was tied to gold. Yeah, that's hasn't been the case since 1971, Richard Nixon. And a lot of people don't realize that about what currency is and how like every currency has failed in the history of ever. Everyone has failed. And oddly enough, the average lifespan of a currency is about 50 years. If you do the math, Richard Nixon took it off the gold standard in 71. You know what I mean? Where are we at now?
Wow.
That
That's
odd?
well, that's kind of scary timing, you know.
Right. Yeah, and if you start to understand like what's money, and occasionally you get somebody like, well, gold or whatever, and you're like, aha, okay. Now, why was gold so successful? Why is gold money and dollars a currency or whatnot? You know, and the fact of the matter is that gold has certain characteristics, or money, real money, has certain characteristics that currency doesn't have. And typically, depending on what you read or the research that you do, it's a durability, divisibility, portability, scarceability, liquidity, and security are like the main characteristics of money. And once you understand uh, like why gold and silver was successful for such a long time and why we kind of steered away from it at the end of it, is because gold is great at some of them aspects, and some other ones it's good, but it's not. You know, it's not convenient to go in a Walmart and go grocery shopping with a chunk of gold and just shave off some, you know, some pieces to buy your, you know, your box of fruit roll-ups or whatever. It just
Right.
doesn't, you know, it doesn't, you know, there's so people learned to, well, if we just made paper notes that represent the gold, we can easily make them in certain divisions, you know, divisibility being one of the things, and the portability, that'll help that. And they're all the same, and a dollar is a dollar, and, you know, so people started leaning towards that. But the problem with that is that just like every other currency over the course of any civilization and time or whatever, it gets debased, you know, basement is the problem. And yeah, so and that's what kind of got me steering towards the Bitcoin, and how come that's under all these like the, the the characteristics that I just give you, why Bitcoin is even better than gold and them characteristics.
So at this point in time, what makes the dollar valuable? Just to put it into perspective for people who are brand new to this, who don't understand what's being done with the dollar. What makes the dollar valuable?
Um, Dollar is valuable because you believe it is. Trust. That's it. That's the sole thing. And trust comes from
It's ultimately
it
backed by
comes from
gold.
the supposedly, yeah, not anymore. That ship sailed. You know, that's not backed by gold anymore.
Right.
People believe that it is, but it's not. The fact that it bought something yesterday and it bought something today, you believe that it'll buy something tomorrow. You know what I mean? But the fact of the matter that it's not a store of wealth. And that's why the gaps between the middle to low class and the upper class get bigger and bigger, because people, the average Joe works and gets a check in his dollars and pays his taxes and goes home and watches American Idol. Is, you know, the dollar is getting, they're crazy, especially now with the you know, sickness, the illness that's out, and everything being closed, and stimulus, free money for everybody. And when they do that, it actually kind of steals your wealth. It's stealing the purchasing powers. And when they say, well, a gallon of milk was this much, you know, I remember when it was 25 cents, when the price of milk is not going up. It's the value, the purchase power of dollars going down. As soon as I started looking at it that way, you know, it kind of gave me a different perspective on stuff.
Right. So what makes Bitcoin different than the dollar as far as value goes?
Well, with well, I believe, and my perspective of it is, if anything's successful, they make something or a product or whatever, it kind of solves the problem. And it's kind of like the biggest problem in the history ever is trust. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a it's a good store of value because you can't make anymore. You know what I mean? Yes, it is mine, and as of right now, there's like 900 a day, I believe. A block is you get rewarded for mine, and that's a whole different podcast, whatever. If you want to go into that sometime, but basically, you mine Bitcoin through computers and all this stuff, and you're rewarded for validating blocks on the network. And once it gets 6 blocks down, which is due to like security reasons and stuff like that, you're validating all the transactions and you're rewarded in Bitcoin. Well, every 4 years, there's what they call a halving. So that reward is split in half every 4 years. So Bitcoin is actually a deflationary asset. It's getting harder and harder while they're printing more and more money. So they're getting inflating your US dollars, but you're deflating a digital currency that's audited every 10 minutes. You know what I mean?
Right. So over time, it brings the value of Bitcoin up because there are how many Bitcoins are going to be created altogether?
There's 21 million Bitcoin that are going to be, I think the year 2140 is supposed to be the last mined block. And actually, that last whole, that mining, the last 4 years mining, that whole 4 years is going to be for one half of Bitcoin, I believe, if you do the math.
So, which doesn't sound like much right now, right? Because that's like $25,000. But if you take into account what Bitcoin may be worth at that point, it could be substantial, like really substantial, because that's the way it's designed, right?
Yeah. It's a deflationary. It's a really, whoever come up with it, and of course they said the Satoshi Nakamoto or whatever, and it's a he or she or a they or them or whatever. Really, really brilliant. It's really smart. Whoever come up with it really knows code, computer code, and stuff like that, and they really know economics and finance. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's why I kind of lean towards it was more than one person. I think, but maybe not. Maybe I'm wrong. Yeah.
I've always wondered because there are rumors of who. So for those who don't know, Bitcoin was created by somebody named Satoshi Nakamoto on, I forget what forum, but some forum, and basically they were asking for help for to start this project, and basically they had it all mapped out on how it would work, and that was 2009.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yep.
Yeah, 2009, which when you think about how much technology has come just in the last 11 years, 11, 12 years, I can't believe that anybody would even be thinking like that. But then again, I'm not that bright. So
Yeah, no, whoever did it was really, I really, really do believe that, like, there's like fire on the wheel, electricity, internet. This is just as important as the internet. I really do believe. And most people look at you kind of all slack jawed, like they have no clue to.
right. So there's way more to it, and we're not going to get into that tonight. But there's way more to what's going on with Bitcoin and the blockchain. Now, digital money is one thing, but we're going to get into the fact that there are different projects that do different things that are all founded on blockchain technology. And blockchain is the real player here. So while we're talking about currency, I think this is a great idea. I think that it's something that we need because we're spending ourselves into oblivion. But what's to come related to blockchain technology, I think, is where people really need to pay attention, because the signs on the road are just that. The internet, it's as though we're standing, if most of us that remember the inception of the internet for public use, we're standing in 1994. and something's about to explode. And I remember people telling me the internet is going to change the way that you live, and me going, yeah, I don't see it, you know?
Yeah, for
So,
sure.
so the way that this is going to, it's going to change our financial sector. It's going to change the way that we do business. I think that it could bring really good things in the case of Bitcoin, and I think that it could bring really bad things. Um, I guess more on the regulatory side with inflationary coins, but that's just my opinion. So, what do people need to know to get started with Bitcoin? Like they've been hearing about it. It's Bitcoin. Um, they hear about it on the radio, on TV. They hear Elon Musk bought it, and they don't know what to do.
Yeah.
What's the best? What's the best way to get a Bitcoin, and how far do you want to go with that?
Well, there's several different exchanges now. Like when I first got into it, you were pretty limited on where you could get it. You had like two options, and you had to give them a DNA sample and wait 4 weeks. Being a little sarcastic, but it wasn't easy, is what I'm saying. Now I mean, if you got a PayPal account or BlockFi or Venmo, that's all doing it now. And of course, there's Coinbase, Voyager, and Binance, and Kraken, and there's several different ways of doing it now. I think that the biggest part about it is the learning curve. It's hard to explain to some people. Like blockchain is you know how do I put it? It's like explaining the whole house and the kitchen and what what I mean. And Bitcoin is
Right.
like in the toaster.
Right.
Bitcoin is one very, very laser focused specific reason, and the underlying technology behind it is the blockchain thing. And kind of to sum it all up is a really smart guy like the Satoshi guy come up with a way of making something digital that's one of a kind is basically the problem that he solved. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
even like if I send you an email or whatever, the email that you're getting from me is not the email that I made up. You're getting a copy of it. If I text you a photo and send you, a picture of my cat, send it to you, you're not getting that. You're getting a digital copy of it.
Right.
And that was the problem with Napster and every UFC fight or boxing fight, people record it and send it. You know what I mean? So that was a problem for everybody. That's what put the movie industry and uh, the music industry under such stress. You know what I mean? Because you can file share and send it.
Right.
Well, this is a way of eliminating that. And it's making something one of a kind. So you can't print another, and you can't. Oh, so you can have actual, really, real scarcity on something that's digital that
That you can't copy or recreate.
you can't copy or recreate. Each one has its own signature, and like I said, every 10 minutes it's audited. So and it's open source. It's an open source network, so anybody can look at it. So it's not like the Federal Reserve. We have so much gold here. You know what I mean? Well, no,
Right.
who audits the Fed? You know what I mean? Nobody gets to see behind that door, see how much gold's really there.
Well, if there's any. Um, so with that, let's talk about decentralization a little bit more, because I think we can say so. Bitcoin is a decentralized digital currency, and some people don't understand what decentralized means, because they
Right.
say I've heard a lot of people say, well, the government's just going to shut that down. They're gonna regulate it. They're gonna make sure that Bitcoin closes their doors. Let's talk about how Bitcoin doesn't have doors.
Yeah. Well, that's a very common negative that people come up with. They're like, well, the government's just not going to let it. They're going to shut it down. And I'm like, okay, well, let's say they do that. Okay, shut down Bitcoin. Where do you go? There's nobody in control of it. There's no specific. If they said let's shut down Facebook, they're going to go kick open Zuckerberg's door. You know what I mean? That's how it starts.
Right.
That's the difference between centralized and decentralized. That in itself is kind of hard to explain. It's kind of like a centralized entity is like our bank. So you get a key bank account or whatever. You know what I mean? You have one, I got one, she's got one, whatever. And all them, that's all centralized through a single server at KeyBank. So if somebody wears a hack or they can attack one centralized entity. Bitcoin's not like that because everybody that's mining, all the miners and validators and nodes and stuff out there are validating the network themselves. So each one of them has to agree with each other. So pretty much you'd have to like hack every computer that's on the network all at the same time. And so the definition of like decentralized, I was thinking earlier, it's kind of like going to the movies. You go to the movies, that's kind of centralized. You're all in a group, you're watching a movie, you know what I mean? Decentralized is kind of like when it goes to the VHS and you're all individually watching it at your home, you know what
I mean? Right. That makes sense.
It's difficult to explain, but it's
there's no storefront, there's no CEO,
no.
There's no PR guy. I mean, there are guys like us that are kind of PR guys, but we're here voluntarily. That's been one of the big things that I've heard people say. Like, I post something on Facebook and they're like, I don't like the players in Bitcoin. And I'm like, I don't think you understand what that means. So basically, there's nothing to stop because it's us. It's all of us. It's almost.
I don't realize that the Bitcoin network is the largest computer network on the planet now.
Is it really?
It is, man.
Wow.
We hit over $1 trillion market cap.
So can you explain market cap for those that don't understand?
Yeah, that's depending on where you are. Here would be like US dollars, how much US dollar. And if you took the circulating coins that are in circulation and the value of that coin and multiply that by the coin supply, you would have the market.
Okay.
So I think at like $53,000, and there's like 18,000 something coins in circulation right now. We went over $1 trillion, and people kind of
at a
say that they kind
of for reference, what are we passing at $1 trillion? Like, who are we passing? Like,
it passed Tesla. I know it passed Tesla. It passed JP Morgan, Morgan Stanley, all them banks. The only thing, like Apple, I think is the largest entity on the planet right now, and they're at 2.3 trillion. Next in line, I think, is Microsoft. Google's still up there, top 5. But Bitcoin's like top 6 or whatever. There's not many things worth $1 trillion out there. You know what I mean?
I heard I don't know if this is real or not, but I heard that it's on the tail of silver. Like it's gaining on silver quickly.
Yeah, but I got mixed feelings about that because silver is like the most manipulated asset out there, and that's a whole other podcast. Yeah, for sure. They got futures and silver for like paper silver. People that think that they own silver, it's like 170 to 1. There's like 170 people out there for every 1 ounce of silver that's out there. So it's like playing musical chairs. What happens when the music stops? You know what I mean?
It's an empty promissory note, and if people want to collect that silver, no deal.
Yeah, and they keep. There was like this whole GameStop stuff and the Wall Street bets. They were shorting the market. Well, they were buying while the hedge funds were shorting. Well, they were. There was rumors that these people were going to attack the silver market and start buying up silver. But what the banks and all these other ones, they can raise their margin calls. It looks like they just produce more paper too. So they're like, no, don't sweat it. There's plenty of silver for everybody. So that kind of discourages people from buying But if you don't have physical silver in your hand, man, you don't have silver. It's just like the Bitcoin, you know what I mean? And not your coins, not your, you know what I mean?
So maybe we can talk just a tiny bit about that, and then maybe we'll do an episode later on if you're going to buy Bitcoin or any other cryptocurrency, if you buy it on Coin, let's use Coinbase as our scapegoat here.
Okay.
Let's say you buy it and it's on Coinbase. Is that your Bitcoin?
Technically, no.
Technically, no. That's
Technically, no, because they have a little things, not your keys, not your crypto. You know what I mean? And anybody that's been in crypto for any length of time knows that. And basically, that's like buying the paper futures of silver and not physically owning the silver. I recommend that there are I think that there is room for both a little bit. Like if you have a little bit, or somebody that's not real comfortable with custody, or somebody that just doesn't have the time. I got all the time in the world, so I can look into, and I'm doing like abstract stuff with it and stuff like that. But some people are, single mom of 4 or whatever, and they just don't have the time, or they get really stressed out and they're not really tech savvy. And you don't have to be tech savvy, but it feels like you got to be at first.
Yeah.
Kind of like setting up your first email. Somebody that doesn't have a computer, they're like, "Oh my god, it takes forever, and I hate this."
So I was in another town today, and I was showing a couple how to buy cryptocurrency on Coinbase today. That was my big project. I'm trying to help as many people as I can get into this. And as I'm talking about Bitcoin and the case for Bitcoin and the case for cryptocurrency in general and what it's going to do, I think, to the entire world, I realized that they thought that I was a tech savvy guy.
Yeah.
And I'm like, slow down. I'm still on the iPhone 6, right? Like, I'm not a tech guy at all, but
one step ahead of you. I got a 7.
There you go. It's like the oldies are still the goodies. But
yeah.
So you don't have to be tech savvy, but you have to be willing to listen and follow directions. So my suggestion, we have different ways of storing crypto, but I think for most people to get started, we would go with a wallet that would go on their phone, right?
Sure, or even buying it on the exchange is fine, and holding it there. I recommend, like, probably once you get to like around $1,000, you're in it now. You know what I mean? You got your feet wet, and now it's time to like start researching and understanding what a cold wallet is, what a hot wallet is, what what an exchange is, and the different ways of custodying it. And we keep saying Coinbase because that's like the most common, but I don't recommend them. The transaction fees are like the most expensive. Like if you buy $20 of Bitcoin, I think it costs you like $3-4. So you really get like $16 or $17. I recommend Voyager, because at least if you're going to have your crypto out on an exchange, it might well earn interest. You know what I mean? And people don't realize that you put your dollars in the bank right now, and you're getting 0.02% interest rates or something like that, because they're discouraged and saving, and they want you to spend. You know what I mean? Because we gotta, bring up the inflation. You gotta keep that, that Ponzi scheme going.
So, well, and that brings up a good point. So, number one, Coinbase is not decentralized. So Coinbase could get shut down during massive times of onboarding when people are buying. You have really bad times getting in and out of Coinbase. So where I was headed with that is
Coinbase is already known for working with the government. When they worked with the IRS and the FBI and some other division of the government when they're watching the price go up and up and up, and they're like, with anybody with what we need to know their information is, and they're like, yeah, here it is.
That's why you don't really want to work with Coinbase, but if you do, or the point that I was getting at is Coinbase can lock you out of your account at any point in time. They're private agencies. So where I'm headed right now, what I tell people is, buy it and go ahead. If you want to store it on there, you need to know that there are certain risks with that. You may not be able to get at it when you want to. I have been using the Exodus wallet. Have you ever used it?
I haven't. I did download it, but I've never used it. I used a Jax wallet before, but I kind of immediately got into the Ledger Nanos and stuff like that.
What I like about Exodus is it offers a few things that the cold wallets offer too, and we'll get into what a cold wallet is. So the wallet that I'm talking about, wallet is in quotation marks here. It's basically a program that goes on your phone or on your computer, and you can put your crypto in there, and you send it there from Coinbase.
That
But
would
we
be
were
a
talking
hot
about,
wallet.
yeah, hot wallet, right? So we were talking about that. Whatever your savings account offers for interest, there are coins right now where you can park them on your Ledger or your Trezor or Exodus. Like Cosmos is paying like 9.44% or something APY.
Depends on the staking pool that you get into. I'm getting like 10% on the ledger. You got to find certain. I mean, there's a variation between. You're in the ballpark. It's between 8
Right.
and 10% or whatever. Once they get oversaturated, the which is another thing that we can get into, the rewards will start to go down, and then they start another pool that kind of starts up and then goes down. You get rewarded more and more. But there are pros and cons to having it on an exchange. Like let's go back to the Coinbase thing. The average person. That's how I started out. My brother and my sister, and what, because it's just easy and they know it. You know what I mean? And they're comfortable with it and they can buy it. And one of the pros of having it on exchange, especially if you're a trader or whatever, is you can immediately sell it, get rid of it. You know what I mean? Price starts dropping, boom. Price starts dropping for me, and I got my ledger home, and I'm at work. I get an hour drive to, I could miss out, or whatever.
Right.
But why I recommend Voyagers, like you said, with interest rates and stuff like that, people put money in the bank, even if you don't believe in Bitcoin or you crazy whatever. There are like stable coins. There are the USD coin. There's Tether. I'm not a huge fan of Tether, but I like the USD coin. And on Voyager, you park your money on there, you get 8.5% interest just by having it on, just setting it on there.
That's specifically on USD coin.
USD coins, 8.5% right now.
So,
and
so
Celsius exchange is even more. I think it's like
so
9.
let's step out of Bitcoin just for a moment, because there's an opportunity here. So USD coin, talk a little bit about that. It's tied to the US dollar. Am I right?
Yeah, theoretically, yeah, that's the purpose of stable coins. There are several different stable coins, but that you avoid I think what they were initially intended for is, instead of cashing out into your dollar, there's a lot of people that are speculative Bitcoin. They don't really believe in the long time narrative, or maybe they do. But the volatility in Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies right now, you can make a lot of money by trading. But I don't recommend people do it right off, because you kind of got to know what you're doing. You know what I mean? You learn to read charts. There's technical analysis, and there's fundamentals and stuff like that. But if you get a little bit educated, it's not super hard to, take your major amount, like 90%, put it over here, and then take 5-10%, and then trade it and try to make a little money that way. You know what I mean? Just know that that's taxable event anytime you trade.
Right.
A stable coin is just tethered to the US dollar. So that enables you to get in and out of different currency. You know what I mean? Bitcoin goes up, I put it into a stable coin, let it fall back down, jump back into Bitcoin. Or, you know what I mean?
So then improving. So you could go from having like 0.1 of a Bitcoin. If you wait until it comes back down, you buy back in, and then suddenly you have 0.2 Bitcoins, and you haven't spent any more money, right?
Exactly. You're accumulating Bitcoin,
building your position.
Yeah. And once you get real good and clever at it, you can go on these exchanges and you can trade with leverage, which I don't really recommend, but you can do even up to 100x, leverage, and which is crazy. If you don't know what you're doing, you can lose your ass pretty quickly by doing that.
I was going to say that those are big boy moves, and
yeah,
I always come out on the bottom when I take those kind of chances. So for me, like, I hold. That's what I do, or I might move things around or whatever. But so back to
I'm probably batting like 500 myself. Sometimes I've lost a lot, and I'm like, oh, that was so stupid. And then other times I made out, and that's just enough. Like, well, I'll get it this next time. Yeah.
So the USD coin, I want to ask one more thing. You're not going to see the price volatility on that coin. It's basically going to stay right at $1, right?
Exactly $1 all the time.
Yeah. But when you have it tied there, you have $1 in there, whatever the dollar's worth,
Right.
that's worth, and you're earning interest on it all the time.
If you have a savings account with $600 in it or whatever, and you're not, you don't need it for a few months, why not? Why not
Yeah.
store it on in the digital asset space and earn 8.5%?
Right.
It's just
That, like, that alone blew my mind when I opened up Exodus and I started seeing. I think you had told me about it before, but it didn't really dawn on me because you had dumped so much knowledge on me at once. But when I opened up Exodus, I was like, wait a minute, banks don't do this, you know? So all of a sudden we're at
used
it.
to.
We have an advantage in our financial situation, which, doesn't seem to happen very often lately.
No, this is like the
So
first time ever in history ever that the small person could have like front run the big investors and stuff like that. That's why it kind of makes me sad, and I almost felt like I had a moral obligation to try to make people understand. And they sit and watch, and I'd be like, "Hey, man, it's 14,000, and hey, it's at 18,000. Hey, it's 20. What we at today? 7,000 or something like that."
right.
And every
Yeah.
time it's like, "Oh, it's too late. I missed it."
Well, and so
Bitcoin's at 6,000. Damn it, I missed it.
this is what people need to know, right? Because I'm sure that some people have tuned into this just for morbid curiosity, because you haven't been seen in a very long time for most people. And I mean, I'm out there a lot, but like, you're not a guy that puts himself out there a whole lot on social media or anything else, but
God no.
you have this message. So like, a podcast is completely out of my wheelhouse or things that I wanted to do. But when you said, let's do a podcast, I was like, if Jimmy thinks that we should do it, we should be doing it. We need to get the word out there. So,
Well, where I work now, I had several people tell me the same thing. They treat me like I'm the Wolf of Wall Street over there. They really do, because I've been on it, and I've gotten a lot of people towards probably like last month, right when it dived. I was like, wow, this is the time. And I got like 3 or 4 people to bite, and then it kind of, what I mean? And seriously, dude, there's some people that are up 60, 70, $80,000 because of the
that's
and that's
like,
just
that's good news,
that
man.
makes you feel good, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. So instead of a wolf of Wall Street, I think we should call you the fox of Frenchville.
Right.
So
The Baron of Bitcoin.
yeah.
The
All right. So what else?
digital asset.
What else do you think people need to know for getting started?
There's just so much. I try.
It's hard to condense
Just
into one.
I mean, Bitcoin's one very specific thing, and to try to explain it is, I tend to get like diarrhea of the mouth, and I can make it flow into like 2 hours of, and by the time I'm done, they're like, "Whoa!" They have no idea what the hell I just said or whatever. But if just try to understand like what real money is. What's money? Wow, what's the function of money? And I can recommend some books like the Bitcoin Standard. The read the Creature of Jekyll Island. You know what I mean? And understand what the Federal Reserve is, and what the U.S. dollar is, and what inflation is. You know what I mean?
And one very important thing: the Federal Reserve is only federal in name, like Federal Express. They have nothing. They are not part of our government.
No, privately owned.
Yeah, privately owned. So they're the ones that are responsible for printing our money.
Sadly enough, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
I have another point that I would like to hit, with the ease of transfer with Bitcoin. And Bitcoin may not be the best case example, but I just want to talk about how having Bitcoin basically makes you your own bank, right?
Right.
So if Jimmy decides he's going to go to South Korea, and he's in South Korea and he's having a good time and he's partying and doing whatever they're doing in South Korea, and something happens and he loses his wallet, right? I can send Jimmy money right here, right now, in real time,
Yeah.
right? So, and if Jimmy gets over there and he says, you know what, Spark, I'm gonna buy a house over here. Can you lend me 50 grand, right? And I've got 50 grand on my phone or on my cold wallet or whatever. I can pull that up and I can send that to you without permission from my bank.
Yep.
I can send it to you without Western Union transfer, wire, anything like that.
Paying remittance costs. Yeah.
Straight me to you, with a pennies on the dollar fee or whatever it may be. So it's a big responsibility, but at the same time, why shouldn't you be in charge of why should you have to ask anybody if you can move your money somewhere,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
That's one of the things that really really gets to me. It's like, okay, this is almost like cash in your pocket
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
like right now, you and I are probably 100 miles apart,
Yeah.
and like I can send you money right now. Like I just pull out my phone, and I don't have to log into my banking system or anything like that and say, hey, can I do this? And have them say, no, you can't,
That's what
whatever.
the permissionless peer-to-peer settlement.
Right. So if we get into banks saying you can buy this, you can't buy that, you can't spend your money with this company,
Yeah.
we've got a way around that.
That was another thing that got me kind of deep into it, was what you're saying there. I heard somebody once. So you could send a photo to your sister in India instantaneously, right? You can send an email like that. Why can't you send money like that? Or why couldn't you send value like that? You know what I mean? And like you try to, and there's a lot of people that work here and then send money outside of the United States, and they work here, certain dollars, they go to send it to their family, and they pay what they call a remittance fee, you know, like you're paying Western Union like 10-15% or whatever. It gets down there, then they have to pay to transfer it into another currency, the local currency, whatever they have. And then a lot of the really third world countries, you got some big guy standing at the door, and you got to pay him on the way out
Right.
to see him walk out.
Not,
That's
not to mention, if you
bullshit.
get stopped by the cop on the way home, he might say, hey, you need to fill
Yeah.
my hand.
So that's why a lot of the smaller countries are benefiting from this. Wait, what? Like the United States would be like the last on board.
And for the
The
reason,
U.S. dollar has been the world reserve currency for a long time, and we didn't know any better. We never had to deal with them problems. So they see a huge opportunity, you know.
well, and that's the thing. I've heard it said, and I've been repeating it a lot, that Bitcoin is the reserve currency of crypto, right? So on a lot of these exchanges, some exchanges don't even accept US dollars. So like you can't just go on and connect your bank account or your debit card and then buy Bitcoin there. They say, no, you bring your Bitcoin to us, and then you can buy all these other coins that are worth less, but maybe you have a reason for it.
Well, a
So,
lot of exchanges were like there are different kinds of exchanges. Ones that just swap coins. You know what I mean? You exchange Bitcoin for Ethereum or vice versa or whatever, and they don't custody them. You got to have a place for you to go. You can have a wallet or whatever. There's other ones that do that and they'll custody it. And then there's other ones where you can buy and sell, and that's like a whole different kind of license, I think, for them exchanges. Or the euro, the yen, or whatever you're buying it in. So I think that was part of it. Then there's decentralized exchange, which is really kind of interesting, exciting, permissionless. You don't need it. You know what I mean? You don't need.
so so a centralized exchange would be something like Coinbase, where you have to there's something called KYC, right? Know your customer. So when you're signing up for Coinbase, you have to send them your information. They need to know your address. They need to know. I think they need a photo ID, right?
No, yeah, before 2017, it wasn't nothing to get in there. But
Yeah.
now
So
it's just like making a bank account, really, kind of now. You need a
right.
photo ID and all this other information, and they can lock you out whenever. All these smaller decentralized exchanges, you can just trade your cryptos,
Right.
And there's you just need your Bitcoin address or whatever the hell you're sending. You just need the wallet address. Plug in here. They don't need to know your name, number, social favorite number. It makes it a lot easier.
So I think I have just a couple more things to hit. One is I think that Bitcoin is successfully shaking its reputation as being used for drugs and hookers, which I think it had in like 2013. But I want to bring up the reason for that. The blockchain that Bitcoin exists on is not private, right?
It's public.
It's public. Yeah. So you can see what's going where.
Yeah.
Right.
It's very easily trackable. The US dollar isn't. There's plenty. Actually, a good. They say that that's used for criminal activity and stuff like that. And if you really dig into it, I think it's like zero. It's like 1%, less than 1%. But the US dollar, like 95% of it has cocaine remnants on it. which one's used for illegal activity?
So yeah, because I can't roll up a Bitcoin and snort anything. So, no. All right. So in closing, I think I think we should probably let folks know that we have a YouTube channel and it's called Sparking Conversations. You're probably hearing about this through my Facebook or Jim's Facebook or wherever else we tend to share it. We will put referral links for Coinbase and Voyager in our bio. And if you would click those, we get a reward and you get a reward, and that'll help us do more podcast stuff. I don't think it'll help us look any better, but maybe we can get some equipment or something. So
remember, this ain't financial advice, buddy.
Yeah. So, and that's one more thing that we have to say, and I've already discussed this with Jim. So Jim and I went to a very small high school, and we were in a class of 43. And we graduated number 42 and number 43. So I don't know why I'm so proud of that.
True story.
Yeah. True story. So take it with a grain of salt. Do your own research. This is not financial or investment advice.
Definitely look into it, though. I mean, I see people missing out, and I feel like I've been pounding the table about it for 4 years. It's really life-changing wealth is what it amounted to, and
sound money.
I just seen a lot of people miss out and they still don't get it. And I think it's just a learning curve, I've read somewhere once to really understand Bitcoin and blockchain and something like that, it takes like 800 hours. I've read that. And it takes like 600 something hours to learn how to speak French. So there's a lot to it, but I mean, you don't need to know how a car runs to sit your ass in it and go for a ride, So,
yeah. So start driving, right?
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think we're done. You got anything else to say?
No, I mean, you ask me what you want to talk about, and I'll do my best to fill in the blanks for you.
Okay. So stay tuned, and we will. We're gonna delve a little deeper on wallets, exchanges, and other cryptos as time goes on. But thank you guys for tuning in, and I hope we satisfied any curiosity you might have. So thank you.
Thanks again.